Look, us 90s kids, we're nostalgia animals. We can't help but get excited when a beloved series from our childhood gets brought up in conversation, or even better, when a reboot for that series gets announced to once again make it relevant in today's age. Reboots of 90s games have already led to some huge successes, like Tomb Raider and Mortal Kombat, while others were not so successful. Regardless, there's still plenty of gold from the 90s just waiting to be mined. I'm Mitchell from SegmentNext.com, and these are the top 10 90s game franchises that need reboots. Number 10. These days you have Call of Duty vs. Battlefield, Gran Turismo vs. Forza, League of Legends vs. Dota 2. But back in the day, it was Mario Kart 64 vs. Diddy Kong Racing. Diddy Kong Racing was a surprisingly forward-thinking and innovative little kart racer, featuring a tiered item pickup system, 3 completely different vehicles to race with, and most importantly, a single-player story mode complete with an explorable hub world and boss battles. The split between Rare and Nintendo likely led to an early demise of this franchise, but hopefully one day the stars will align and we'll see Diddy behind the driver's seat once again. Number 9. Parasite Eve was a great RPG that released back in 1998 for the PlayStation that had the distinction of being the very first M-rated RPG released by Square. There was really nothing else quite like it. A survival horror-themed RPG set in New York City of all places. The game received a direct sequel and eventually a spin-off called The Third Birthday that, as often is the case, kind of took the series off its rails. Parasite Eve is one of those rare titles in Square's back catalog that feels like it would benefit from a full-on reboot rather than just a sequel or HD remake. Number 8. The legacy of Kain games along with Metal Gear Solid were trailblazers in interactive storytelling on consoles and helped raise the bar in terms of writing and voice acting, in addition to providing a collection of outstanding games in their own right. Square Enix likely tested the waters with a multiplayer-focused shooter set within the legacy of Kain world called Nosgoth, but it's time they took the dive and rebooted the series, introducing a whole new generation of gamers to the characters of Kain and Raziel. Number 7. Back in the 90s, 3D platformers were all the rage. Super Mario 64 helped begin the trend on the N64, but it was BANJO-KAZOOIE that further cemented 3D platformers as the genre king of the era. After a successful sequel, BANJO-KAZOOIE kind of faded away outside of BANJO-KAZOOIE Nuts and Bolts, which took the two beloved mascots and placed them in a weird mishmash of genres, all centered around building your own vehicle to tackle various challenges. I personally like Nuts and Bolts, but it doesn't change the fact that I would have much rather have seen a true return for the Baron Bird. With the success of the Yooka-Laylee Kickstarter, it must be apparent to Rare and Microsoft that BANJO-KAZOOIE Reboot would be best for business. Number 6. Look, Duke Nukem Forever will go down in history as one of gaming's biggest bombs of all time. But Duke Nukem as a franchise still has a lot of value. Games like Hard Reset, Wolfenstein: New Order, and the excitement for the upcoming reboot of Doom have shown that there's absolutely a market for modernized old-school shooters. So let's not give up on Duke. A rebooted Duke Nukem could be exactly what the franchise needs to wash out the sour taste of Forever. A rebooted Duke Nukem that kept the raunchiness of the original classic, but focused primarily on highly explorable interactive environments filled to the brim with secrets would go a long way in bringing Duke back to his glory days. Number 5. 13 years. It has been 13 years since F-Zero GX came out on the GameCube. That's long enough to make it common for the only knowledge that teenage gamers to have about F-Zero is, oh, that's the game that Captain Falcon was in, right? That is unacceptable. With the NX on the horizon, Nintendo would be missing a huge opportunity if they passed up a chance to debut a rebooted F-Zero in order to show off their new console's capabilities with one of the fastest and smoothest racers ever created. Number 4. Capcom made the right move with RE4 to put the camera behind Leon and turn the game into a third-person action horror game, as opposed to just being another Resident Evil game just like the first 3. However, the pendulum has to swing back. After RE4, RE5, RE Revelations 1 and 2, and RE6, it's time for something new. And sometimes when you want to do something new, the best way is to find new ways to tweak the old. A rebooted Resident Evil makes so much more sense than Resident Evil 7. Bring the series back to its roots of being confined to a mansion. Bring back the classic survival horror elements of being forced to make tough decisions with regards to your ammo and inventory space. And scare the shit out of us, damn it! Number 3. Ever since the release of Rare Replay, Battletoads has undergone a bit of a resurgence in the eyes of gamers. Rash is a guest character in Season 3 of Killer Instinct, and all three Toads make an amazing cameo in the Xbox One version of Shovel Knight. Despite the popularity of the Battletoads though, the last time we've seen them in their own game was in 1994 arcade game. The challenge when it comes to rebooting the Battletoads is what genre should it be? 2D brawlers don't exactly light the world on fire these days, and one would have to wonder how modern gamers would react to a game that was as brutally difficult as the original Battletoads was. Regardless, a Battletoads reboot is something that needs to happen in some way, shape, or form. Number 2. Very few game series have seen such a fall from grace as the Silent Hill franchise. What began as a handful of the finest examples of horror video games in the medium has devolved into a series with the later games filling up the bargain bin at your local GameStop. Oh, and this. Hit the lever. PT was so exciting because it seemed like finally we'd be getting a Silent Hill game that Konami was serious about. With Kojima and Guillermo del Toro on board, and with how freaking scary PT was, it seemed like there was no way that Silent Hills wouldn't be the return to form that fans had been waiting for. Unfortunately, Konami went and lost their minds, so Silent Hills remains hidden in the fog. Number 1. Sony, you keep teasing us. Every single year. It's time to stop and announce the Crash Bandicoot reboot already! For those who didn't grow up in the PlayStation era, Crash Bandicoot was to PlayStation as Mario was to Nintendo. He was their mascot character and the star of some of the best platformers the PlayStation 1 would ever see. Once Naughty Dog handed the franchise off to focus on Jak and Daxter, the series kind of lost a bit of its luster, but that doesn't excuse the fact that it's been 8 years since we've seen one of the most important Sony characters on a Sony console. Hell, he wasn't even part of PlayStation All-Stars Battle Royale! So Sony, please, let's make 2016 the return of the Bandicoot. It's time for Crash to return to relevancy and help put 3D platformers back on the map. And that's our list! With a list like this, it's inevitable that some of your favorites didn't make the cut. So let us know which 90s games you think deserve a reboot in the comments below. Thanks for watching, be sure to subscribe to Segment Next for more awesome videos, and I'll see you next time.